So, welcome to the February 2025 edition of California 4-Wheel Drive Association's Access and Stewardship Committee. So good to see you all. I always love seeing familiar faces and some new folks who get to join us from time to time. Tonight we have a pretty loaded agenda. There's a lot of major topics that we'll be tackling this year, but we have a few that are of more urgent nature that we'll talk about tonight. One of those being the proposed removal of Scott Dam at Lake Pillsbury. I'm so pleased to have the Lake Pillsbury Alliance leadership here to join us and share about this issue. So I'll introduce them in just a moment. And then after we discuss Lake Pillsbury and some action that we can take on that issue, we'll transition over to the Antiquities Act. We've all recently taken part in many activities to oppose the designation of multiple monuments that were trying to be pushed through before the end of the Biden administration. And so we'll talk about our wins and our losses there and how that transitions into our new effort to take on the Antiquities Act itself. So thanks again to everybody for joining. As we're going through, if you have questions while Carol and Aaron are presenting, hold off on those and we'll do some Q&A after they have a chance to share information. And then we'll transition to Antiquities Act to have more discussion there. So let me go ahead and introduce Carol and Aaron. Carol Cinquini is vice president and Aaron Sykes is president of the Lake Pillsbury Alliance. They've actually been working for several years on this proposal by PG&E, but backed by many familiar environmentalist organizations and groups that are advocating along with them to remove the dam at Lake Pillsbury. Is it Pillsbury Lake or Lake Pillsbury?
Lake Pillsbury.
Lake Pillsbury. Okay.
Yep.
So the Lake Pillsbury region is up kind of crossing over the Sonoma Lake and Mendocino County regions in Mendocino National Forest area. There is a lot of OHV routes in that region. If you look on Onyx, I was just kind of doing some route scouting over the last few days, and it's a very rich area in regard to the types of terrain and the types of trails that are open. I know that we have many clubs that are very highly active in that region who do adopt a trail work and also have annual and cyclical club outings in this Lake Pillsbury region. So the immediate impact on OHV specifically is not the biggest issue in that the removal of the dam obviously won't remove the trails themselves. But what it will eliminate is all the camping around Lake Pillsbury. Carol and Aaron will go into more detail on that. It will also increase catastrophic risk of wildfire and decimate the businesses in the area that offer the services that support people who go into that area of the mountains to recreate. So there's so many layers of impacts. It's hard to summarize it quickly. Carol and Aaron have a ton of great resources to help us be quickly informed on this and to take action. So without further ado, Carol and Aaron, please take it away.
Thank you. Thanks for having us tonight.
Yep, thank you.
And I wanted to say Aaron's not only on our board, but he's also a member of the fire department in the Lake Pillsbury area. So he's and very active OHV, all other kinds of things. So he can represent a lot of the recreation that occurs up there. I know this is a loaded subject and it could take hours, and I've tried to really prep for this meeting to condense it into the simplest way I can to get across to you what's happening. So PG&E owns the Potter Valley Project. They've owned it since 1930. Potter Valley Project spans two counties. The Scott Dam Lake Pillsbury area is in Lake County. The water diversion and hydropower plant is in Mendocino County in Potter Valley. The purpose of the project is hydropower. So the way that happens is water is transferred from the Eel River to the Russian River into the hydropower plant. The water is distributed throughout Mendocino-Sonoma County on down to North Marin. The Potter Valley and all of the upper Eel River or upper Russian River area is very dependent on the water that comes from the Potter Valley Project. The removal of Scott Dam in Lake Pillsbury has profound environmental effects, both to the Eel and the Russian River. in our opinion. The area up in Lake Pillsbury is known to be very hot and dry during the summer. Flows usually end up down to a trickle through the Lake Pillsbury Basin. And so water to divert in the summertime is impossible. We got here because the FERC was ordered, FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, ordered PG&E to adopt reasonable and prudent alternatives for the Eel River fishery in 2004. When that occurred, PG&E's water diversions were at 150,000 acre feet and they dropped to 60,000 acre feet. When that happened, PG&E became unprofitable. So flash forward, here we are now. PG&E was up for relicensure in 2017, 2018. They were actually going to pursue relicensing, but this tremendous pressure came on them from the fishery environmental folks, from the fishery agencies like NIMS, NOAA, California Fish and Game, and the momentum just built and built and built until PG&E finally said, never mind, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to abandon the project. So Jared Huffman had formed Congressman Huffman, a two-basin solution ad hoc committee. And that ad hoc committee was to find a two-basin solution if PG&E didn't relicense. And basically, in a nutshell, it ended up a series of negotiations to where we are today. Humboldt and the fisheries and Eel River said, we can go along with continued water diversions if Sonoma, Mendocino, you agree that the dams can come down. And therefore, nobody fought to save Scott Dam and Lake Pillsbury except our organization and the Lake County supervisors. So today, where we are, PG&E has filed a surrender, not filed it yet. They have a final draft surrender application that they've circulated to the public. In that draft surrender plan, there are two actions. One is to remove Scott Dam and eliminate Lake Pillsbury. And the other action is to allow the new Eel Russian Project Authority, which is an organization, a joint powers of agreement that was formed by Sonoma County and Mendocino County, and to authorize them to build a new water diversion in Potter Valley. And they'll be allowed to do some water diversions during high flow months. And so with that, those two actions, we will lose Scott Dam and Lake Pillsbury unless somebody intercedes, unless the electeds get more involved, and unless another path is revealed that we can follow to find an alternative to removal of the dam. That's as fast as I can do it. I hope it gets the point across. Any questions from there? How does this affect you? As Rose pointed out, in the plan, PG&E will remove, as it's written today, PG&E will remove all of the campgrounds in the Lake Pillsbury area and all the facilities that are associated to it. Well, all of the campgrounds are at that northern end of Lake Pillsbury, northern and western, east, little bit of eastern. Once the lake is gone, they're going to circle a sediment-filled lake bed. There will be nothing there. So they're going to pull those facilities out. But what they haven't done is said to us what they will do. Will they rebuild campgrounds in places that will be convenient for OHV users, for camping users, for people that want to use the river, for people that want to hike, whatever? None of those types of mitigation plans are in this current surrender plan. And so we have grave concerns, number one, about the dam being removed, but number two, that we won't have a recreational area that is in the heart and the center of the Mendocino National Forest. I also want to point out there are 300 homes in this area. There's an 80 person private campground. There are 225 slots of campgrounds around the lake. So it's not insignificant, and we are the hub of the National Forest. And then the last thing I'll just say is all recreational users, whether you're a homeowner, an OHV, a backpacker, whatever, they're all going to be vulnerable to fire We've had two of the biggest fires in California history in that area. The 2018 Mendocino Complex Fire, the 2020 August Complex Fire. It was Lake Pillsbury that provided a physical boundary to slow those fires. And it was Lake Pillsbury's immediate source of water that enabled us to have air attacks and land attacks to put those fires down. And it wasn't just in the Lake Pillsbury area. Some of that occurred from Lake Pillsbury to Mendocino to Glenn County to help put those fires out.
Yeah, Carolyn, if I can speak on that for a second.
Yeah, please do.
So when we had the Mendocino complex coming down, I see a lot of people from the Santa Rosa area coming down the side of Whole Mountain at us. We ran water trucks 24 hours a day for 7 days out of Lake Pillsbury. And we pulled millions and millions of gallons to stop that fire where it was. And a lot of people don't realize, if we had to go to Lake Mendocino with a 3,500 gallon water truck, that's a 4+ hour round trip.
Right.
Instead, they're getting it 20 to 25 minutes from where they need it. I mean, that was a huge deal in the firefighting world.
Yeah. And the other thing is that the roads, I mean, there are issues with roads. There's one decent way in through Mendocino County. You can get in through Lake County. It isn't the easiest route, but in a fire situation, of course, we're very concerned about, depending on where your location is, how you can get out. And you won't have a lake to go into to help protect yourself. So that's a big issue for the Mendocino National Forest, and certainly for anybody that comes to the Pillsbury Basin if we lose our lake.
Yeah, we're still seeing, I don't know how long a lot of these local guys I'm seeing have been going up there. I've been going up there for 35 years, and it started when I was 16 years old in a Toyota 4x4 camping at Oak Flats Campground. And being on the fire department and being around the area a lot, I mean, I still see that. I see that next generation up there in their, well, what I would used to call a $2,000 truck, but now a $6,000 beater truck, still enjoying the trails and learning four-wheel driving and looking at Powder House with intimidation, and looking for guidance on how to get up it. And that's still going on. That new generation's coming up.
Yes.
And it's all centered around these campgrounds that are going to go away.
And I think that is really an important point, because if we lose the lake, those of us that have strong ties to the basin want to see recreation continue. We need it for us. I'm very blessed. My grandfather had the foresight in the late 30s to camp in Lake Pillsbury, and he loved it so much that he learned about the homesite area up there, and he secured a lot. Our first permit was 1941. We've raised 5 generations there. It would be devastating to all of the families like mine that have used Lake Pillsbury for so many years to see it just go to a wasteland. We've got to either fight to keep that dam, and then if that doesn't work, we have to fight harder to make sure there's something left behind for all of us.
Yeah, something else that was very infuriating about the process is we were railroaded out of any of the discussions about what was going to happen. Lake Pillsbury Alliance, nobody who had a stake in the basin, and for the most part, Lake County, were kept out of all of these discussions. But all the environmentalist groups, Caltrout, all those people were allowed in and to have input.
We were actually, I think it was before you joined the board here, we were physically told to leave one of the early meetings, the Lake Pillsbury Alliance. I mean, it's another good point. Lake County is the only group of elected officials that has stood up for saving Lake Pillsbury. And that's pretty daunting for us if you think about this. Not Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, not the Mendocino County, not our senator, not our congressman, not our governor. We have hit every single level of government trying to get us support. And it's been very difficult for us. We've been at this now for almost 8 years.
Well, this all feels remarkably similar to what we face with national monument proposals and the strategies that are used, the timeline and the tactics. So I think these are things that many of us are familiar with from perhaps not dam removal proposals, but things like national monuments. Something I wanted to touch on that you had both mentioned earlier with relationship to the risk of increased fire is that Another issue that we face in the motorized recreation community is that when a major wildfire goes through an area, if a significant part of the landscape is destroyed and needs restoration, oftentimes rehabilitation and maintenance of the OHV routes in that area are not a top priority, and we may or may not see those routes continue as open after restoration occurs. And so in some of our prior meetings, we've heard from Dell Albright and others with the PORA organization that, they've solely focused on going in after these wildfires to restore the trails and make sure that they do remain open. And so that's something to consider here too. It's a different cause for the concern, but the same outcome that we're facing on the other side of it. So I just want to add that in regard to the relationship between this dam removal and how it impacts not only general recreation, but recreation specifically.
And we have a very active trails.org. Dean Joyner was heading that up for a while, and others. Aaron, do you know if that's been active recently or?
Yeah, I know Dean's been putting it together, and I know Dell's been a part of it. I never thought to reach out to Dell. I have a decent relationship with him, but that thought didn't cross my mind.
Yeah, I'd recommend reaching out to Dell. He might be able to rally much more support in the region as well.
Okay, good idea. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, well, Carol and Aaron, can you share with us what your campaign looks like? What are you doing? What are you asking us to do to support you in this issue?
At this point, there are a couple of things. One, we just launched tonight, actually, a little instant button that folks can push to populate an email automatically to PG&E to comment on their draft surrender plan. It's fully customizable, so you can put your own 2 cents in there. We want them to sign off, but it's a way for people that don't know how to get started to comment to get just a generalized email. It focuses on all 3 counties. It doesn't just specifically focus on the Lake Pillsbury Basin, but we tried to be as broad as possible, and then let our people that want to comment get in there and personalize it to meet their needs. It's just a 1 click to open the email and a 1 click to send it. So that's going to be really good. We'll be pushing that out. The other thing is we do have a subscriber email list. If you're interested, get on that list. We do send out updates and action alerts. Not a lot of them. We don't bury people with it, but when we need your help, we ask for it. And then we have a fairly active social media campaign, so you can keep aware of what's going on there. And we really need people to write the highest level state and federal elected officials. We're not going to get anywhere locally anymore. We have to get as high as we can possibly get and get attention on this project. Our goal is to get an elected official at a high level to say, hey, whoa, let's just wait a minute. Let's see what it looks like to analyze Scott Dam and the potential to modernize it, retrofit it seismically and with fish passage, and see if we can't salvage that and put it under control of a state or federal agency. An example would be, we're not promoting any particular plan at this point, but a good example would be in Mendocino and Sonoma County. U.S. Army Corps has 2 dams, Lake Mendocino, Lake Sonoma. Those are major parts of our water system. It makes a lot of sense to modernize, retrofit Scott Dam and save it. Doesn't have to be a hydro project, but save it and put it under Army control, Army Corps, and then you have 3 dams in the same water system, pushing water down the Eel River and over the Russian as it's needed, supporting the entire region and community. That is a far-fetched goal, but it's one that could be achievable if we got the right elected officials to buy into it. We are at a turning road, and it will take a Hail Mary to get us through this. And that's the kind of Hail Mary we need. So getting political attention, meaningful political attention, is what we need most. Communities, your community could organize a letter writing campaign. Everybody that's even in this meeting knows 10 people that could write letters, encourage them to write letters, help them write the letters. And any organization that's supporting us. CalDeer has been very helpful to us as well. But to get people to write, get the volume up, because we've been able to be minimized every other way.
Hmm. Um,
Hey, excuse me, real quick, Carol. Can I ask you something?
Yeah,
My name's Tom Corning. I'm the vice president of the Mendocino 4x4 Club, and I love the area you're talking about. We go four-wheeling up there all the time. Tons
awesome.
of trails, tons of hunting. I love just going up there to the airport, watching the elk. I mean, I love that lake. I think the local community in Mendocino. I work in law enforcement in Mendocino. I'm an administrator in a law enforcement agency there, and I feel like the locals support wanting to keep that lake. But I feel like the media just makes it sound like it's like a done deal. Like we
They
don't have,
do.
yeah.
That's what they want you to believe, Tom, that it is a done deal.
And,
And
well, what I'm saying,
he,
I have some pretty, as an administrator in a law enforcement agency in Mendocino County, I have some connections with some media outlets. If I can get your contact and maybe like set up an interview or something where you can get your message across out to the locals that would probably spend the time, writing letters or emails, if that's a possibility, because I do have some connections with some media outlets, and I'd like to help as much as I could.
that'd be appreciated. We'll take all the help we can get.
Yeah.
We have been minimized by a lot of the local medias, particularly Press Democrat. We've had a lot of Mendocino Voice has done the best for us in terms of at least getting the facts out there pretty well. But it's true. Stories, when we submit stories to a lot of these outlets, they're not published. And we've even reached out to the Chronicle. We've reached out to Wayne Friedman. We've reached out in a number of different ways.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I've read so many articles where they're just make it sound like it's a done deal and don't waste your time voicing your opinion and move on.
Yes, and it is way down the road. There's no doubt about it. But PG&E just said in their presentation this past week, the decision is not retractable, but it's not for PG&E. But it is possible, even now, all the way until the federal government issues its final order, that it is possible to transfer the license elsewhere. It's just you have to have the desire to do that. That means you have to have the support to do that. And that would be the only way we would have a Hail Mary, is if we could get PG&E to change its recommendation in its surrender plan.
Carol, I'm curious, the area where Lake Pillsbury sits, is that within what type of land? National forest, all privately held?
Mendocino National Forest.
Okay, have you connected with and is there any official position by Mendocino National Forest on this issue?
Mendocino National Forest takes the position that they cannot advocate for the area per se. Their job is to land manage. And so their advocacy work is really minimized. They are more looking at the future. They're looking at planning. They're going to be watching for mitigation. They're concerned about the lands they manage, but they do not take a position.
I'm just wondering if it might be, well, and you might have already done this. I've read through some of your stuff. You're directing people to reach out to folks at the state and national level. But since we do have some new faces in Congress and the federal administration, there may be a way to push this a little further and at minimum have a temporary hold on the deadline that you're currently facing. So while I know you've been at this for years and I've been there and I know it can feel like a Hail Mary at the end, but looking for extension so that there is time to evaluate other alternatives if those alternatives have never surfaced and been considered seriously, that is also an avenue that could be pursued.
It could be. And here's the timeline and I know we're taking a lot of time, but this is really important to us.
Go ahead. It's all right.
The timeline right now is PG&E is doing this public comment period. Public comments end March 3rd. The official filing of the surrender application will occur in July 29th. And that's when PG&E officially files with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And then it'll take a couple of years for them to organize. There are going to be a lot of environmental reviews that will be required. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. And it will be in that period, maybe with the adverse effects, for example. There are hundreds and hundreds of adverse effects that they've listed even in their draft document, that it will cause delays. And that's another thing, is how much can we delay this until we can get those kinds of people in a position of having some voice.
Very good. So I think that there's quite a bit of hope in that timeline and in that picture.
Yeah.
While we only have until March 3rd to make comments, there's a lot that can happen afterwards, and the advocacy doesn't stop March 3rd.
No, I mean, we're in it to see it through and to do what's best for our region. But specifically, we're very concerned about the impacts to the basin communities. So, and when I say communities, again, not just talking homeowners, I'm talking about all recreational users. We are a community. People that go to Lake Pillsbury are kind of a special breed. It isn't an easy place to get to, and you have to love that kind of area. So we want it. We want to preserve it and protect it as best we can.
Absolutely, yeah.
I have a question. Okay, I work for Southern California Edison, and I worked a lot in hydro with their system. Okay, and we've retired some and we've sold some. Now they're not extending their license. So the question I have is, when they basically say, "Hey, we're releasing this," okay,
Right.
who's releasing it to? And that's what we need to find out. Because if they're just releasing their liability of this dam, okay, they're not going to be paid to demo it. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
There's going to be that cost to remove that dam and put everything back to its original stature. So you have to actually see if you can find out who's actually going to be the person or the organization that's going to now take over that dam once they say, "Hey, we're not doing our lease anymore. We're going to not renew it." Now, who's going to be responsible for that transition? That's what you take to your U.S. congressman, okay, your local U.S. congressman, and push it to him now or her. And if they don't want to do anything with it, then you keep pushing it up. And that same letter, you don't change that letter from your U.S. congressman to your next step. And you keep pushing it to every U.S. congressman in a 500 mile radius. Okay. So until you get to a Republican U.S. congressman, okay, and as soon as you get that letter there, and you show that you've sent it to all those now, and then you send me that letter, I can send it to my uncle and say, "Hey, here, all these congressmen have this letter. We want this to be pushed to Army Corps of Engineers." My uncle likes a fight, and if it's a good fight, he'll push it to his guys. My uncle's a retired U.S. congressman, and we can do it. I'm not saying that we can do anything, but that's how you do it. I mean, you just keep sending it to the U.S. congressmen until you get to that Republican. It could be, 500 miles away from you, right? Because you are in a Democrat
Dennis,
area.
Lake Pillsbury Alliance has actually already outreached, I think, an exhaustive list of congressmen, including Republicans. So that piece is in action. And so maybe this is all.
Send me that letter.
I think that it's important to know PG&E, because it's a private company, is on the hook to do this, to remove the dam. They have a fund that I think we've all been paying surcharges in for years to decommission.
Yeah.
The thing that it will be very, very expensive for them. And we watched some interesting things happen at the Klamath, which lead us to wonder, if they'll see it through or if they'll try to off it to the state,
Yeah.
you know. And so in the case of the Klamath, that's what they did. It wasn't a surrender like PG&E's is a surrender. The Klamath there, they were planning on relicensing, and there was so much pressure on them.
Is that Klamath Falls or?
The Klamath, they took 4 dams out in the Klamath Lake area.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, so that's to be determined, but right now it's a private matter that PG&E is on the hook to remove the dam. You can imagine just the liability alone that they're going to have to come up with to do something like that. But more to come on that one. We probably overstayed our welcome, huh?
No, not at all,
No,
Carol. I
no,
think that
it's
we
all
could probably
good.
talk about this for a very long time. Let's see if anybody else has questions. And yeah, anybody else have questions or thoughts on this issue? I know we have several folks here who do have clubs and also reside in the same area.
I recognize some names of folks that have been active and just commenting social media or, you know, involved in this issue.
What is the name of your group? Because I came in just a bit late. Carol?
We're Lake Pillsbury Alliance. We have a website, savelakepillsbury.org. We're on social media. We're on Instagram. We're a small 501c3 grassroots organization. We're all working our butts off, and we can use all the help we can get.
I wrote the president.
Great.
I started at the top.
Yeah, I mean, really, he now with him in office, there's a good choice right there.
Yes, right there.
So
Well, and
thank you, Mary, for taking quick action.
That is where we need help. You know, our focus today, right now, for the next 2 weeks, is on our response to this 2,086 page final draft surrender plan. So that's where we are for the next 2 weeks. But we are hoping by putting this link on our website, by getting information out on the website, social media, by all of the people that are interested in our area, sharing that information, that public comments will happen while we're working on our response on their behalf, I will add.
Yeah, Mary or Carol and Aaron, the work that your group has put into this is phenomenal. So in the chat, everyone, I shared a PDF, a 2025 Save Lake Pillsbury flyer that gives a summary and some key instructions on actions that you can take. I've also included a link to their website, a long link as well as a short link at the bottom. And from their website, you can go straight to that button. I love, Carol, that you've got it right there at the top of the homepage. So that makes it an easy submit straight to PG&E. But we want to not just click that button to write to PG&E. We want to also go ahead and make calls and send letters to any elected official, you know, from the Department of Interior, certainly the U.S. Department of Agriculture, since this is Mendocino National Forest region, as well as our elected representatives.
Okay.
Those in the area.
I have to make a plug. Any donation is happily accepted, small, any size, we don't care. Everything is going to our legal consults. So that's what we have to do. And we want to make our responses as strong as they can possibly be, as I've said.
Absolutely. So a strong show of support will help to bolster that position in your litigation.
You bet. Okay. Thanks again, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you all for your time.
Yes, we appreciate it.
We'd love to continue following this. I know we won't be meeting again before that March 3rd deadline, but perhaps we can have you back for a revisit on status as things are continuing to unfold.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night.
Good night. So we'll go ahead and transition to our next topic, which is Antiquities Act reform. And I know many of you were involved in our campaigns to oppose the 5 monuments that were kind of top of order for California before the end of the Biden administration. One of those being Range of Light. We also had Chuckwalla, Quishon, Satitla, and Feather River Canyons. And so we had a mixed result with those where we actually won the effort for the moment with Range of Light and Quishon. Those were not designated, and I fully believe that it was because of the upswell of support that we had from our group, We were strong contenders on both of those, as well as many other groups that joined with us, including American Stand Association, Stewards of the Sierra National Forest, Corva. There were many groups up and down the state, as well as out of state, that joined in that Blue Ribbon Coalition on all of those as well. Feather River Canyon still hasn't gained enough momentum to really become a contentious issue, so that one did fade to the background more so. But we did lose the battle for Chuckwalla and Satilla. Those both were designated by Biden on January 14th, just 2 weeks. Actually, is just about 6 days before the end of his term. So we are now at 4 million plus acres of national monument land in California. And I wanted to share my screen just to give a little bit more background information about let me pull it back up here. Here we go. Okay. So hopefully y'all are seeing my screen now. This is a fact sheet that was given by Biden White House briefing prior to his end of term. This is actually back on January 7th, before he had officially designated Chuckwalla and Satilla. It's really long. I'm not going to go through and read it all, but I will put a link in the chat. I recommend reading it because this really is revelatory in regard to the motivations behind designation of national monuments. And the Moab to Mojave Conservation Corridor is one of the big pushes in the Southwest for multiple monuments. And so we do have a new White House administration. We also have a very positive makeup of congressional representatives, as well as a strong House Natural Resources Committee within Congress, that I do not believe that we are going to be facing risk of any new monument designations for at least 4 years. But political tides always change, they ebb and flow, and the groups that are behind all of these monument designations will not just be receding to the background. They always play the long game, and they're going to be ramping up and shifting their strategy to be well positioned in 4 years for whatever our new political landscape may look like at that time. The Moab to Mojave Conservation Corridor, let me know if it changes pages when I click over, if you can view this. You got it? Okay. Thank you, Mark, for confirming. This is what it looks like on a map. And you can see that these blue monuments are those that are already designated now. The kind of grayish land is Indian reservations. And then the green lands in between are some otherwise conserved lands, like through nature conservancies or national parks. Like we have Capitol Reef National Park in dark green, Grand Canyon National Park. The light green are other proposed lands. And so where this really becomes interesting is, shoot, this bar up top always. Did that change my screen to a Word document?
No,
No,
it's
it
still a
didn't.
mess.
So, okay. I'm just gonna have to pull this down so I can click through it. National monument designations are a core strategy for the 30 by 30 agenda. And so are you now seeing a map of the whole US? Perfect. Okay. Where this overlaps, what we just saw with this corridor is shown here kind of in the grand scheme of where they're moving towards 30 by 30. And so to orient you, my cursor here is over kind of a pinkish blob. Those are existing Indian reservations in the Northeast Arizona to, Northwest New Mexico, the Four Corners region. And in Utah, this bigger red blob is a collection of monuments that now exist between Grand Staircase, Escalante, Bears Ears, and then other conserved lands around it. As you're moving down in this direction towards California, you can see some of these other blobs filled in that are now like the Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument, and then moving over towards where Avikwami was designated into California, where we now have Chuckwalla, etc. And so you can see here that this agenda is actually one piece of a bigger puzzle. And so we do want to take on reformation of the Antiquities Act because we have a favorable political climate that we may not enjoy again for at least many years, if not ever. We have interest within Congress already to look at the Antiquities Act, and I think that we'll have support within our broader federal agencies like the Department of the Interior, possibly the Department of Agriculture. We'll kind of see how the chips fall. We also have a favorable set of feedback coming from the Supreme Court. So now's the time to take action. And what we'll be doing is kind of similar to what we did with national monument opposition, which is a combination of phone calls as well as letter writing, and then collaborating with other organizations that we often partner with, like Blue Ribbon Coalition, for their action alerts. And so we want to get as many contacts per elected representative and as many trackable letters, emails, and calls to each of these agencies as possible. I am putting together a tip sheet and a letter template to help guide everybody. And there's a lot of information to compile about this. So I've been working on it for a few days as this is moving rapidly. And I didn't have it quite ready to release to you all. But let me see if I can pull up a sample here. Bear with me just one moment again. Here we go. Okay, so hopefully now you're seeing a Word document that says Support Antiquities Act Reform. Perfect. Thanks, Neil. Okay, so like I said, there's a lot of information. I've condensed much of it into about a page summary, and then it will transition into talking points and tips for making phone calls. I'll have a letter writing template here, and then listing all the phone numbers, emails, and addresses to reach out to for folks. So this is going to be a fairly lengthy document, but it will be a one-stop shop where we can put everything in one place. So I'll be sharing that out through our group chat for the Access and Stewardship Committee, as well as with all of our district vice presidents to get that out to our clubs and our membership. I'll also be sharing about this in our convention meetings this coming weekend. And so we'll have plenty of opportunities to discuss it more. But you guys get a heads up and you'll get first grabs at it as the group chat for this forum will be the first one where I'll be putting it out to everybody. So I'm asking for all of you to join in and take the time to make some calls, write some letters. I know letter writing is kind of a ancient practice. Not many of us write letters anymore, but the template hopefully should make it easy. And if we all want to invest, I don't know how much a stamp costs these days. What is it? 50 cents, 60 cents? If we all want to invest a few dollars in sending out, maybe a dozen letters, it can really make an impact. I know every single time I call a congressional representative, because as you're making calls, I'm also making them. And when I speak with folks that support us or are on, a different place of opposition, invariably I always receive feedback that they're hearing from a lot of us, and it does make a big difference. It grabs their attention because if people are bothering to take the time to make a call, they know that it's something that a broader number of their constituents are paying attention to. Letters are also very, very powerful because it's that tangible piece. And again, not many people write letters anymore. So I think they have an even deeper impact. Emails are also great because they're trackable. You have that written record that it was sent. And it makes it easy for us to share with one another and kind of know the volume of what's going out there. Oh gosh, stamps are 73 cents a piece now. Inflation. Well, the $7 you can send 10 letters. So this will be something that we'll be doing, for a few weeks, but we are going to try and make a bit of an urgent push. One positive thing on our side is that the new Secretary for the Department of the Interior, Secretary Burgum, has been given a directive to review all national monuments. Granted, he's reviewing them through the lens of their energy potential, because we have several monuments that have halted coal mining, uranium mining, and a variety of other energy production that is vital for our national infrastructure. So they're looking through that lens first. But irregardless of whether they're looking at it for the purpose of energy or for public access or recreation or any other use, the fact that we're having review of national monuments, period, is very positive and something that we want to support. So that gives us even further momentum. So that's my info and my ask for today. Looks like we have some questions. Tracy and Warren, you have your hand up?
Hi, Rose. This is Warren Story.
Hey,
I'm the
Warren.
individual delegate for North District now. Um, is this something that we could put in the in gear? The document you're talking about, I noticed it was like 3 pages. That would be a great way to get it out to people, not only me giving it to my club, but the whole Cal4 gets it that way.
Yeah, so our next in-year publication will be in March, and it will be on this topic. It won't be that whole 3 pages because that's a lot of space for me to ask for within just the way that that magazine is put together. But I'll have at least a summary with a QR code to go to further resources on our website. So this comprehensive information will make its way to our website, and that's where I'll keep ongoing updates and additional resources housed as we move through this over the next, several weeks or months, however long it takes.
Perfect. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you. Hey, do folks have other questions or thoughts on the Antiquities Act or what this outreach campaign looks like? Okay. How many of y'all are excited? Calls and write letters. Awesome. Happy to see a lot of nodding heads. Well, Blue Ribbon Coalition has an action alert that is going out right now as well. So I'll include links to their campaign in addition to ours. We want to support all organizations. I think that we'll see more jumping on board. I've spoken with a few other groups, and it looks like we may be putting together a more formalized letter from a collection of organizations across multiple uses that are impacted by national monument designations. Hopefully we can get that organized as far as it's always kind of like herding cats, trying to get many organizations to come together quickly, but I think it's possible and it would be positive. So keep an eye out for that as well. Before I wrap up for tonight, I think that's our main topic. Do we have other questions or things that might be helpful to discuss? All right. Well, thank you in advance to everybody for joining in. As we push this information out, please comment and share on it on our social media and spread the word to your clubs, friends, and family.